This week, a special edition of The Local Show as we bring you our four-part series on suicide and depression.
Principal funding for The Local Show provided by Francis Family Foundation, William T. Kemper Foundation, Commerce Bank trustee, Frederick and Louise Hartwig Family Fund, Kaufman Foundation, Healthcare Foundation of Greater Kansas City, Hall Family Foundation, Johnson County Community College. Additional support provided by and KCPT members. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Nick Haynes. At the end of last year, a series of local high-profile suicides prompted KCPT to take a closer look at the issue of depression and the circumstances surrounding suicide, its causes and effects, the importance of early intervention, and the impact of those left behind. We've brought you these reports over the last several months, but it's hard for viewers to catch them all. This half hour, for the first time, we bring them together in one place.
I've got to let you know you're one of my kind.
Mark, you're getting me stirred up.
It wasn't me. Lauren did it.
But I'm trying to be as calm as possible.
What are you stirred up about?
Since when?
That's how you stir the pot more. You asked me what I'm stirred up about.
Well, I want you to get it off your chest.
You want me to tell you what I'm stirred up about? No.
It's very cathartic.
No.
I want you to jump right off that cliff.
I've got to be on good behavior here, right?
Since when?
I don't want things to go south. 37 downtown, 34 KCI, 34 Lee Summit. We got 36 in Lawrence.
The weird things about that day, Tuesday, was that I came in and I knew he was in an extremely bad mood. And our newscast goes on at 4:30 every morning. And so I get down here about 4:15, and I was sitting at this desk right here, and Don would be at this weather center behind me. And for some reason, I had this compelling need to look over him and said, "Don, I love you." And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Not in a sexual way." I said, "I love you as a brother." And I just felt like I needed to say that to him. A lot of times when I would get here in the morning, my morning routine was to go back to the weather office. I would drop off my coat and my briefcase, and I would say, "Hey, Donnie, how you doing?" And if he responded by saying, "Hey, Marky, everything's great," then I knew he was up. If he would just grumble, going, I knew he was down. And so then I made it my objective for that day on the newscast to try to make him laugh at some point. So if it snows like you know what, this weekend.
Hey,
Monday,
no.
will you be in at work?
I don't know.
Okay.
But don't get me started on that.
Okay.
Wait, on any of those?
It is really best for everyone involved if you and I don't talk.
It's also impossible. 619 Fox 4 Power Traffic. Here's Bill. Good morning.
Don and I did talk about being manic depressive. I told him that it runs in my family, and he says, "Yeah, I think I've got it." I said, "Why don't you go get help? I'll go with you because I need help too." He says, "No, I'm too stubborn. I'm not going to do that."
On that note, it's 9:48. Let's get you on over.
Everything throughout my day, everywhere I go now, I can think, well, Don and I did this, Don and I did that. We had this experience. And just to know that that's not going to happen anymore, it's very painful.
The day that he finally did complete suicide was August 21st of 2009. And he got up that morning and he was terrific. He was happy and took a shower and got dressed and was going off to work and kissed me goodbye and "I love you, I'll see you later," and went off to work. And at 5 after 1, he was gone. He was 64 years old. He was very accomplished in many, many ways, in many areas, very devoted to his family and to his friends. John suffered for many, many years from depression. Back then they used to call it manic depression. Today they call it bipolar. It really was swings of it. He would be good for months and months, and then there would be an episode, and he would get very, very low. And I have to tell people it's very scary. And anyone who has lived with or been around, this is scary stuff because you're totally out of control. You can't watch somebody 24/7, although I tried, and it's exhausting. And it's frightening, and it's horribly sad and isolating. And there is a stigma to it, so you really don't talk about it, which we've got to stop. I think it's very important for people to know that often when a person is contemplating suicide and they're very, very down, that's not when they have the energy level that's high enough to pull it off. And I think that one of the signs that family members and friends need to watch for is this sort of surge of feeling good. I think he was dedicated to doing it. He had thought about it for a long time, over years, actually. But I think he had the energy and the commitment to do it that day, and he did it.
I think all of us in America, in our society, you pass somebody in a hall, you see a friend, you say, "Hey, how you doing?" "Oh, I'm fine, how are you?" And we don't mean it. I'm committed now that when I ask somebody how they're doing, I'm gonna stop and listen, and I want a real answer. And if they ask me, I'm going to give a real answer.
You have to be courageous around depression. You have to say, I will wade in, I will take the risk. And a good thing to say is, what is the worst thing that could happen to me if I tell my friend or my colleague or my family member that you're behaving in a way that is unfamiliar to me and I am scared? You don't tell people, gee, I don't know what is wrong with you, but you are sure acting like an idiot. You say, I am uncomfortable. I am worried, I am nervous, I am scared, I feel a particular feeling when I am around you. That makes it easier for people to hear.
So as a friend, as a family member, talk openly, including talking about suicide, and help get other help involved. And when you don't know, you have no idea where to go, then call the National Suicide Prevention Network. Wherever you are in the country, you call that and it gets routed to the center that serves your area code.
When I was 12, my first cousin died of cancer, and I don't really know what kind of cancer it was because our family didn't talk about it. You didn't talk about cancer, you didn't talk about death. Cancer was referred to as the big C, and I've always regretted that because just that stigma put on someone because of something they couldn't help. In a lot of ways, mental health issues are the same way. It's not something you can help. It's a disease. You didn't ask for it. It's just like cancer. And unless we start talking about it and making it less of a stigma where people can openly say, yeah, I battle depression, I've got these ups and downs, I'm a manic depressive, and not be stigmatized for it, unless that can happen, what happened to Don's gonna happen again, and I can't stand that.
We need to be able to get help. We need to not keep secrets about suicide. We need to not assume it can't happen to that person, because it can.
Can you prevent suicide? I think is the most commonly asked question, and the only answer I know to that is by early treatment when you see depression. We need to be focused on this end of the treatment process before it moves seriously down the continuum into the possibility of suicide. If you look at depression on a continuum that says, one, everybody has ups and downs. Everybody has bad days. Everybody has good days. Depression is about some kind of shift that you can learn to notice in yourself so that the depressed feelings continue over time and the symptoms become noticeable. I'm not sleeping well, I'm not eating the same, I'm losing or gaining weight, I have no interest in my life, nothing excites me. But the real issue is how long do those symptoms persist? People do not have permission in our culture to feel their feelings and to talk about them and to ask for help. I use a metaphor in therapy of the trash compactor. about throwing things that you can't express and don't want to feel into that trash compactor. So you push it down and it gets tighter and tighter, and so when the lid is threatening to come up, you can feel that. You can feel it in your body. You can feel that heat that I'm going to cry or I'm going to get angry, and so you do something to tighten the lid. Alcohol really works on tightening that lid temporarily. And so what people discover, I use this substance to medicate to tighten the lid in my trash compactor, but eventually I need more than I needed the last time, and then you're on your way to an addiction. And it's not just self-medication with alcohol and drugs. People shop too much, spend too much money, they gamble, they do an activity that is clearly satisfying by pushing things back down. And it's like the more I can push this down, the more I can have the illusion of control. People come to therapy, they want to know what's wrong with them. They want to know, am I different from other people? And I think it's important, and I use this word very guardedly, there are normal thoughts in the sense that more people have them. The average person wonders from time to time in a down mood, would I just be better off not to be around? And I don't want people to think that that means that they're sick or that there's something wrong with them. It does, however, mean you must be facing a really difficult time in your life and you need to talk to somebody. The most important thing is I can be more in charge of my mood swings, my ups and downs than I may currently believe. And as we learn more about the brain and the way the brain functions, there are more and more techniques that can be learned to help people manage mild to serious depression. One of the most interesting pieces of research in recent years is on meditation. And there has been a study that indicates that just as we have a set point in weight, you know, the idea I've lost 10 pounds and I feel great, but I gained it back, that we have an emotional set point. We came into the world with this emotional set point. So if you win $1 million and you feel magnificent, you will drift back to that set point. If you have a normal kind of depressed response to losing a job, to having a fight with your spouse, to having something go terribly wrong in your life, you may be depressed, but you will drift back to that set point eventually. What the research is indicating is that meditation can alter the set point of your emotional well-being. Now, I'm terribly oversimplifying, but when people know that there are things I can do to feel better, whether I am mildly depressed or that depression has reached a more serious place, that is one of the most exciting pieces of research I've seen in some time. Now, perhaps a little more obvious to some people is rigorous exercise alters depression. And most people who do exercise on a regular basis can report that within a 15 to 20 minute period of rigorous exercise, they can feel a mood shift. Now, that's potent, and that tells us how much our chemistry is impacting the way we feel. And what we put in our bodies also has a huge impact on depression. So I tell people that if you will exercise regularly, meditate, and pay attention to your food and begin to use only foods that really promote health, you can alter your outlook on life in somewhere between 30 and 90 days. I would simply like for people who begin to experience feelings of depression to ask for help. I would say the majority of people who seek treatment for depression get better through a combination of psychotherapy and medication. And the key is to help people understand their thought processes and to understand the sort of difficult matrix they create in their head of negative thinking about life experiences.
In Macbeth, the line is tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. And Patrick Stewart said he was told that the emphasis was on the and I get it, because it's tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. I've gone through periods of time where quite literally for weeks on end I would wake up angry and rise into a rage and spend the day in a rage and simmer back down to angry so I could go to sleep and wake up and do it again. It is just a feeling, that's true. It's just after a while, it doesn't feel like there's anything but that feeling.
Every day we talk to people who are at risk of suicide, and we know that helping people get through those critical points and helping them build up hope, you can keep working in that direction and shift the balance away from suicide. But people can't always do it on their own and shouldn't have to. One of the examples, and I use it in training our staff, was talking to a college-age woman who was very, very suicidal, and it was about the end of a relationship. And she didn't want to bother her mom with her mom knowing that she was having a hard time. And so I asked her, it's like, I could tell that your mom is really, really important to you. And what you're telling me is that you're worried that if she knew how sad you felt right now, that would be so terrible for her. And I just have to ask you, what are you thinking would happen if your mom found out that you'd killed yourself? And she paused for a minute, and what she said was, well, it was really hard on my mom when my sister killed herself. I mean, that showed how much you can not be able to think when you're in that pain, because she was talking about being the second of the two children who might end up dead by suicide, and that part hadn't occurred to her yet. It'd be sad for mom to know I'm sad about the relationship breakup. She could only go that far. And that was obviously a total turnaround in the conversation, because the light came on for her. What I think about with talking to people about suicide at that crisis time is that's the solution they've latched onto. That's the only solution they can see. And so we need to back up and tell me about the problems. Tell me what you're trying to solve with suicide. And then that opens the door for, gosh, these things you're telling me that show that you have a lot of compassion for other people and some strengths about the person and some options that you might be able to try. It's getting the situation and then, what are the options? Yes, suicide is an option, but maybe it doesn't need to be the solution. If they call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline number, what they should expect is to be treated with respect and caring, to be taken really seriously. And we're going to try to help them talk about what it is that got them to the point of thinking about suicide. And we're going to talk to them directly about, have you already done something before you called here today? And if not, do you have a plan? And let's talk about that, because we're going to try to do things to minimize the chance that they're going to act on that immediately. But mostly what we're trying to do is let the person unload, whatever it is that got them to the point of suicide. Honestly, a lot of people, that's all that they need at that point. Just because you say the word suicide doesn't mean you need inpatient treatment. Doesn't mean you need law enforcement doing a wellness check. Let's find out what you need and get you the level of help that you need and not go overboard. Also, when we're talking to the person concerned about somebody, maybe it's the partner who calls, maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a adult child who's calling about a parent. What can you do? Well, part of what you can do is try to get those really dangerous methods out of the house, and starting always with just get all firearms and ammunition out of the house, not just locked up, because we know too many times when people die with guns that are supposedly locked up and unavailable. One of the things that's a challenge always for people learning to do suicide intervention counseling is you've got to be able to acknowledge the intensity, the seriousness, I can hear from what you're saying that the pain you've been feeling is so overwhelming and you're not sure you can live with it anymore. And I know that you're thinking very seriously about suicide, but I also know that you have been willing to call someplace. You've told your friend, you've showed somebody, and by doing that, that tells us both that there's at least a little part of you that wants some help. And let's try to work with that part right now.
I firmly believe that suicide knows no boundaries, it knows no demographics, religion, ethnicity, and it can happen in any family. And I know a lot of people don't like that when I say that because they think, oh, it could never happen in my family, but I never thought it would happen in mine either. Brett's depression, I think, manifested itself through risky behaviors. And he got into alcohol, he got into drugs, and I have done some research that a lot of men that take their lives by suicide, looking back at their growing up, they were risk takers. And he did very well in the military. He was in there for 6 years. He'd been in the VA hospital a couple different times during those years for depression, where he had attempted suicide. And at 31 years old, the doctors wouldn't talk to us about it. He was of age. Without his permission, we could not get any information.
I think everyone who's affiliated with a suicide, you question yourself, could I have done something different? Should I have said something different that day? Should we have intervened in taking him to a mental institute and got him admitted? Well, from what I'm hearing, there's not much you can do to hold someone against their will. Once they say, okay, I'm not suicidal, I'm not having those thoughts anymore, they have to release you by law. And so it was very surprising to me that there really is no way to intervene like you can for someone who's addicted to drugs and harming themselves through chemicals. But when you have a chemical imbalance in your brain, there's nothing really the law can do to prevent you from hurting yourself.
One of the things that we talk about a lot in our group is for those people who've lost loved ones to suicide, as they think about that, to remember what they did right. You know, not just focus on, I could have done this, I should have done this, my last word was this, but think about all the things you did right. Think about all the times that you did something nice for that coworker and had great conversations. Think about the times that you told your kid you loved him. You know, don't, because people sometimes only focus on what I could have done that maybe would have not let this happen.
Well, SAS got started with a group of people that had lost loved ones to suicide and had thought that we needed a local group that would promote awareness about suicide.
She is one of the few providers in this community of free suicide survivor counseling and mentoring. And she was a lifesaver for me.
A lot of times you can't talk to relatives or friends anymore about your loved one. You know, you've exhausted them already. And so in a support group, sometimes it's the only place that people can come and say, here's what I'm really feeling. And people will listen because we've all been there.
We are not a culture that knows how to grieve in a healthy way. Death is a horrible loss. And we have to understand that we are going to experience tremendous lows and sadness and fear and anxiety when a loved one dies. And lots of people push themselves through that period too rapidly. Lots of people take medications prematurely for that kind of depression. And if we are not allowed permission to feel it, to express it, to say, I hurt, I'm scared, I'm angry, I'm lonely, then those kinds of feelings get caught in our heads in just a context of negative thinking that says this is awful and this is terrible and I can't stand it and my life will never be the same. That's beginning to move along this continuum of seriousness to the extent that people can get into difficulty.
When there is a suicide in the family is a high risk for a repeat suicide. I don't know if it's because depression runs in a family or if a lot of times if that was the way that someone saw someone working through their problems, if it was good enough for grandpa, if it was good enough for dad, then it's good enough for me.
But I think the most important thing for people left behind is to know it is absolutely not your fault this happened. There was a little picture that a survivor friend put on Facebook that had the saying something like, if love could keep you alive, you would have lived forever.
You just have to go forward, you know? Someone said to me, life goes on, but only if you do. So we all have to go on for their memories and for the people that are left behind.
You know, we have a lot of different religions in our group, so we don't get into the religious thing, but we do talk about that we do believe that our loved ones have found peace, and they certainly hadn't found peace while they were here.
We have gathered lots of local resources on suicide prevention in the Metro on our website, thelocalshow.org. That's where you can also access all of these video pieces. You can share them freely. I'm Nick Haynes. We'll see you next time on The Local Show.
Principal funding for The Local Show provided by Francis Family Foundation, William T. Kemper Foundation, Commerce Bank Trustee, Frederick and Louise Hartwig Family Fund, Kaufman Foundation, Healthcare Foundation of Greater Kansas City, Hall Family Foundation, Johnson County Community College. Additional support provided by and KCPT members. Thank you.